Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up nights. This week we're playing Deliver Us the Moon, The Adventure Pals, and Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, amazing.
More like Deliver Us a Pizza.
Please. I haven't had pizza in so long.
Oh, really?
That's actually not true. I found one little ball of pizza dough left in my freezer last week. So I was like, that's incredible. So I had that last weekend. It was great.
We made homemade pizza just recently as well, but yeast is hard to come by these days. So
yeah,
I Googled how do I make pizza dough without yeast, and apparently you can use baking soda instead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's exactly like eating a pizza on a pancake.
Oh, this is maybe onto something.
It's very sort of light and poofy, and it doesn't really have any of the, like, I don't know, the chew of yeasty pizza bread. Yeah. Not bad. It's fine. It'll do in a pinch.
Yeah.
You know.
Close your eyes and you imagine it's a real pizza.
Yeah. It's, quarantine pizza. It was fine.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would, if it was on the menu in a restaurant, I was like, ooh, give me that instead.
Yeah.
But, you do what you got to do.
That is definitely sort of the words to live by these weird times. I've had my eye on a couple of weird novelty pancake recipes that I've been meaning to try, and that I found a supply of flour. I think I can make some of those. So maybe I'll just add quarantine pizza to that list. That could be interesting.
Excellent. We can compare notes.
Yeah. Just to keep this going.
Mm-hmm.
What toppings did you go for your rare pizza occasion? Like you haven't had pizza in a while. What kind of pizza do you select?
I just kind of went with what I had in the fridge. So we had some red sauce. We had some, I had red pepper. I had a red onion. What was the other thing that we had? Oh, we had a jar of artichoke hearts in the fridge. So we popped that open, and marinated in the Italian seasonings and stuff like that. And they came out really good on the pizza. And I did some, dairy-free cheese on mine.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine. Again,
that sounds good.
Not a legendary pizza, but I got a pizza stone on the grill, and every year it starts to warm up. I'm like, let's make pizza on the grill. And this has been the first year that I've not been able to find pre-made pizza dough at the grocery store. And I can't find yeast to make my own, so we had to kind of reverse engineer it.
You haven't chanced delivery at this point?
It's hard to get a vegan pizza delivered.
Okay, yeah, that would complicate things.
Unless you're in a great big giant city where you have tons of resources. And Harrisburg, is a little hip, but it's not quite hip enough to bring me a vegan pizza on demand. So,
have you tried ordering a giant pancake, perhaps?
And just put my own toppings on it? Is that?
Yeah, or just hear me out. Could you put tomato sauce on the pancake?
No, I've not done that. But, Sarah can do it easily. Sarah still eats meat and cheese and all those other things. So every now and then she gets a craving for Pizza Hut, and I will, eat a bowl of cereal.
Oh,
while she eats Pizza Hut. But these are the sacrifices I make.
Right. For a good cause.
For my animal friends. Yeah, exactly.
I have some exciting quarantine news.
Oh, yeah.
I gave myself a haircut this weekend.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
I think it went surprisingly well.
Oh, good.
I'd never done this before, but at this point, I feel my hair is pretty low maintenance. So I got a set of clippers back ordered on Amazon, as it were, and just spent some time doing that. And I think it turned out fine.
Nice.
So it can be done. I don't know if there are people like what level of haircut people usually go for. I imagine the more elaborate salon stuff would be trickier to pull off at home. But
totally.
If all you're doing is just getting a clipper cut anyway, then why not? And I'm just
not hard to replicate that. Yeah.
Maybe this is just what I do from now on. Who knows?
Oh God, no! I need a real haircut. I had clippers. I have clippers because I have a beard. So I have clippers in the house to be able to take care of that every now and then. And nothing beats going to somebody who knows what the hell they're doing and makes me look less homeless.
Yeah.
But so I've been using the beard trimmer to also kind of trim up the hair on the top of my head, which has since spilled over to trimming the hair on the top of Sarah's head. I say we look okay. We look
okay.
we have, a little sort of rough edge, but it's quarantine, man. Not everybody's
I was going to ask, are
you
discovering any new like quarantine looks that you're like, oh, what can I do with this?
No. I mean, my hair on like the top part of my head is much longer than it's ever been before. So I can do the ear tuck, which I've never been able to do as an adult before. So I find myself kind of absentmindedly like, tucking my hair behind my ear. And then I'm like, I got to wash my hands, damn it. Yep. But, I'm looking all right. I mean, the one time a week that I leave the house to go to the grocery store, those people can suck it up. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, everyone's in a mask anyway. I don't think anybody is expecting everybody else to look like, they're going to church or something.
That's the consolation with the beard is I'm not going to put 40 minutes of work trying to make this thing look good because I'm going to cover it with a mask anyway. So
yeah,
I'm really just wasting beard balm on these people.
Well, it continues to just be a nonstop adventure every weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard in certain parts of the country, people are like going to amusement parks and going to the movies and stuff.
Yeah, so. Don't do that. Don't do it.
You couldn't pay me. Would not go. I mean, going to the movies was always annoying anyways, but like now you might die.
Yeah, I know. Like I didn't even especially like going to the theater before. And that was
I do miss concerts. I like going to concerts.
I would live through each movie.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What are they going to do about concerts? That's a tricky one. Because I know some studios, they've just been publishing stuff online, like on demand, new movies coming out. But it's harder to do with a musical show. Yeah,
there have been a lot of bands that have been doing kind of streaming things on the internet to sort of, maintain contact and to a certain degree maintain their sanity, I imagine. But, nothing replicates the experience of, going to a crowded venue and drinking overpriced beer and seeing a band you love play very loudly. Mm-hmm. And Sarah and I go to a lot of shows. We go to 30 plus a year to concerts, and this year so far it's one. The likelihood of us having and that was pre-epidemic, obviously, so the likelihood of us getting to another one anytime soon is pretty nil. We keep getting refunds on all these concert tickets that we've bought, and I'm like, I have so much money, why do I have all this money? Because I keep getting refunds on concert tickets I bought. yeah
I keep checking my bank account and I'm like, God, what is going on? There's so much in there. Like, why? And then I just remember, because I don't do anything.
You're not going anywhere or doing anything. Exactly.
Yeah. So on that level, it's great.
Yeah.
Why do I need all that money anyway?
Right. It just seems so wasteful. But yeah, I don't know how concerts come back. That seems like, short of a vaccine, which hopefully at some point in our lives will happen. Yeah. It would be tough to get me in a crowded room with 5,000 people again.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. Which kind of messes up my social calendar for a year.
Yeah.
It's kind of all I did, DJ.
I'm sure you'll come up with something.
Find other things, yeah.
You could be the one who invents the quarantine concert.
Yeah, the socially distant concert experience.
Yeah, you have a Zoom concert or anything yet? No?
Not yet, but anything could happen, I suppose.
Somebody's got to be working on it.
Yeah, but there have been tons of bands, tons of musicians doing live streams and stuff like that. And are you a fan, or at least familiar with the band Death Cab for Cutie?
I have heard of them.
You've heard of them, okay. The lead singer, Ben Gibbard, is a pretty prolific songwriter, big admirer of music and other people's music, but
used to be married to Zoe Deschanel.
Used to be married to Zoe, exactly. So that as well. Wrote an entire record about how bad it sucked to break up with her. But
I don't know about that.
That's not my point. So, but since this thing began, like beginning of March, he has done a daily 90-minute long acoustic jam from his house. for free on YouTube. Some bands have monetized these things and charge you like, $10 or something like that to watch a live stream of them perform. But Ben from Death Cab has been doing a free concert every single night, 7 days a week on YouTube. And obviously weeks ago ran out of Death Cab for Cutie music. So has just been doing weird covers and deep pulls and B-sides and all kinds of other stuff. It's been, and I've not seen all of them by any stretch, but I'll read the set list every now and then. I'm like, well, geez, I would love to hear Ben from Death Cab for Cutie sing all Smith songs one night. So tune in for that. So yeah, he did a Bowie, couple Bowie covers. He's done, the lead singer of Fountains of Wayne died a few weeks ago and he did a Fountains of Wayne set. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I feel super connected to Ben Gibbard every night when I watch his show.
That's amazing, actually, if you're a big fan to begin with.
Yeah. And like, I wasn't the world's biggest Death Cab for Cutie fan, but I have a whole new appreciation for just how much kind of creativity this dude has in his head.
I'll have to see if Bob Dylan is live streaming from wherever he is.
From a heavily fortified bunker somewhere.
I don't know. I was going to say, like, he's probably on his tour bus or whatever, but he's probably not touring at this point. So, hopefully he's not touring.
I don't think anybody's touring.
No. I saw that since they had to close a bunch of game centers or like arcades in Japan, that Zuntata, the Taito band, recently did like a live electronic / DJ set, it looked like, from one of those closed down game centers.
Oh, neat.
I was like, oh, that's fun. So I've been meaning to catch the video of that. I will drop that in the show notes as a link if anybody else wants to check it out, because I think that would be super fun.
And DJ's thing is obviously much more gaming related than my thing was.
Well, maybe Ben Gibbard likes, I don't know, maybe he likes The Last of Us or something. Maybe he'll do some of that soundtrack.
He's a moody guy, probably, sure. But I'll drop a link to Ben's YouTube on our show notes as well, if that appeals to you.
All right. I'll drop a link to Bob Dylan's whereabouts if I ever find out where he is.
Where in the world is Bob Dylan?
Oh, I'd play that or watch that or whatever that is.
Just travel the globe as a secret agent trying to track down Bob Dylan.
Where is he? He was right here a minute ago.
Good times. So, been playing some games. I've been sampling a lot of games. I want to issue kind of a correction to some bullshit I spewed last week.
Just last week?
just I'm only holding myself accountable for last week. I can't go all the way back. There's 442 episodes, DJ.
We don't have time.
But last week I was playing, and finished actually this week, The Procession of Cavalry, which is a delight. Were it not a year with Animal Crossing, that would probably be my favorite game so far this year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's hysterical. The creator of that, Joe Richardson, last week I said had made another game, and I incorrectly identified that game.
Oh, no.
So I want to call out that his previous game was called The Four Last Things, which is totally not what I said last week.
Four. I think you just said it was The Four Things.
I think so. But it's called Four Last Things.
The Four Last Things.
Yep. And last week I identified that as his first game, and that's not true either. So he actually has another game before that called The Preposterous Awesomeness of Everything.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yep, and all of these are point-and-click adventure games with a very kind of witty, goofy, Monty Python-esque sense of humor. I'm going to go back and play the other two now because they're all under $10 on Steam, and they seem to run just fine on my crappy machine. So I'm hooked now, and I want to see his other games. But I did want to correct the record because I gave some bad advice last week and some bad direction on what the game were called. So there you go.
Okay, well. Glad you've done that.
Yeah.
Just think all that traffic we were sending over to that other game that was called The Four Things.
The Four. Is there a game called The Four Things?
I have no idea.
The Four Things.
It would have been a good opportunity to like rush something out last weekend while everybody was trying to find this other game.
If I Google The Four Things, it takes me to a website for a book called The Four Things That Matter Most.
Okay, that doesn't sound like probably not the same guy.
No, it doesn't sound funny at all. 4 simple phrases. Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. And I love you. Carry enormous power.
Oh, well, that's very wholesome.
It is super wholesome.
But not
delete.
A video game.
Close delete. Window. That's not what anyone's here for.
That.
Yep.
So what games have you been dabbling in?
Back to Control a little bit. That is a tough game to take a break from, and I've probably complained about this on the show before, because in the time that I put it down and then eventually go back to it, I forget how to control it.
It's a little ironic.
I know, it's right there in the title.
I did this recently, actually. I wonder if we're at the same spot. But I had a very similar experience where I was just like, you can do so many strange things in that game.
Yes.
And I feel like at least the mouse and keyboard mappings are not the most intuitive. Maybe because you're doing unusual things that you don't do in most games. But it's weird. Like, you have a little sidestep ability that's on a strange key. That I feel like is on the wrong key. But whatever.
Yeah. I'm using a controller, and I have to spend a little time at the beginning of every encounter going, okay, it's left shoulder is the dodge, right shoulder brings up brings up a move wheel, right trigger aims, of course, or right trigger shoots, left trigger aims. But then, there are, like you said, kind of other powers and abilities that you have. So it's menu upon menu of like equipping all of these abilities, and the gun has 4 different modes to it. And so, it's a lot to sort of reacquaint yourself with.
That's another game where I just feel like there's too much going on. Like, I can't believe that, like, first of all, there are weapon mods, and also there are just the number of weapon mods that you acquire in that game is overwhelming.
And a lot of them are sort of like, and you have limited number of space to carry them.
Yes, and none of them are good is really the key thing.
They're only slightly incrementally better than the one before it. So a lot of my time is spent staring at it going, well, this one increases my damage to 18, but this one only increases it to 16. So let's throw away the 16.
Yes.
Yeah, let's equip the 18. That's
pretty much which of these makes the number the biggest, and then throw all the rest of them in the trash.
Yeah, that's video gaming in a nutshell.
Yeah. But very weird and kind of incongruous with using your cool ghost powers throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah. And I'm intrigued. I'm getting story beats and things that sort of remind me, I was super hooked on this once upon a time. I should probably just barrel through the end so I can say I did it. I saw how it ends, because I don't know. I think I just got tempted away, as I frequently do, by other games. I didn't quit playing Control because I didn't like it. So, I owe it to myself and to the game to finish it.
Yeah.
I've also been playing lots of Picross on the Switch, which is just a crazy rabbit hole to go down. But, I got time.
There are, exactly. There are a lot of Picross games on the Switch at this point, as we were.
There are a ton.
Briefly discussing before this. This happened to me on the 3DS also, where they came out with one which had 1 million puzzles in it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then they just kept
This is all the Picross I need for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still on the first one. And then suddenly there are 5 of them.
They keep putting out a new one, yeah.
I'm very intrigued. Well, the Switch version, first of all, is just a nice version of Picross. But the new one has, apparently if you own the previous versions, you unlock these enormous Picross puzzles that are 30 to 40 grid spaces wide.
Wow.
Which, if you're not a Picross, if you're not familiar with Picross, that is huge. That is maybe too big.
It's pretty advanced, yeah.
But I'm intrigued. I've never done a Picross puzzle that large, so I'm kind of into it.
Yeah.
Kind of a bummer that I have to buy 2 Picross games that I have not even touched at this point to even access them, though.
Right, yeah. You need to have access to hundreds of Picross puzzles to be able to do the 2 giant ones.
Yeah. But someday.
Yeah. And I've also been going back through the hard drives on my PS4, on my Xbox One, on the Switch, looking for a lot of indie games that I've sort of was on sale for $3 or $4 or something like that, and I grabbed because they looked interesting and they never got around to playing. And that is how I landed on The Adventure Pals, which I believe is a game that came out last year on the PS4. It's on other platforms as well. It's on the Switch now too. I kind of like the artwork. I thought it looked cute, and I remember it being cheap. And bought it, downloaded it, and there it sat on my hard drive until just this week, where I went, let's fire this up and see what it does. And it's fun. It's a good time. It's like a Metroidvania beat 'em up, kind of heavily inspired by Adventure Time. Yeah.
But not actually. It's not actually an Adventure Time game, is it?
No, and it's unfortunate that it's not an Adventure Time game because the folks at Nickelodeon spent a lot of time trying to make Adventure Time video games, and none of them were very good.
I thought people like that Zelda 2 one, whichever one that one was.
I forget what that one was too. Yeah, I remember talking about that on the show. Yeah, it was all right. It was,
or maybe people just like the fact that it reminded them of Zelda 2.
It worked more as a nostalgia vehicle than anything. But Adventure Time, the TV show, is rich with characters, rich with its own kind of lore. You would think it would lead itself to a video game quite naturally. And unfortunately, I think the games that did come out felt a lot like kind of quickie cash grabs, felt kind of underfeatured or too short, and just didn't deliver on the promise of the TV show. Adventure Pals, obviously, it does not come from the Adventure Time canon, but it would totally work. Like, I keep sort of recasting the characters in Adventure Pals with characters from Adventure Time, and I feel like somebody needs to do a Crypt of the Necro Dancer kind of indie game with global phenomenon mashup to turn Adventure Pals into an Adventure Time video game. So how this works is essentially you're a little boy who has a pet giraffe who lives in his backpack.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very Adventure Time.
Yep. Yep. His name is Sparkles. You also have a pet rock.
Wait, the boy or the giraffe's name is Sparkles?
The giraffe's name is Sparkles.
Okay.
And when you jump, Sparkles sticks his head out of the backpack, tips his head back, and his tongue turns into a helicopter. That allows you to sort of hover and do double jumps with his flapping, rotating tongue.
Isn't this just Banjo-Kazooie?
Maybe a little bit. I didn't make that connection, but yep, there you go. I
actually don't know how Banjo-Kazooie works. I just assumed.
Something similar, yeah. Ukulele, I think, works the same way. You have a little bat you carry around. He allows you to fly. Yeah. So you have a pet rock, and you can. His name is Mr. Rock, and you throw him occasionally, and you can use him as a periodic weapon. He gets power up sometimes where he'll like hover around you, and he'll fend off other monsters and enemies and stuff. But an evil sort of flying wizard person who was really just your neighbor has cursed your grandfather and turned him into a hot dog.
Okay.
Stick with me. And your grandma challenges you to go out into the world to find these magical gems that will defeat Mr. B, your next door neighbor, and turn your grandpa back into your grandpa. You go out into an overworld with a giant map, and go to different villages and talk to different, eccentric characters. They give you missions and little submissions, and all of those things eventually lead you to the place where you are collecting these gems that will allow your grandma to turn your grandpa back into your grandpa, and no longer be a hot dog. All the characters are sort of appropriately wacky and eccentric. The artwork itself is, it looks kind of comic booky, kind of Sunday morning cartoony. It definitely has kind of an eccentric Adventure Time, Invader Zim, kind of that late night Nickelodeon vibe to it. Mm-hmm. All of it totally works. And the core gameplay, though, when you get into the levels, is you jumping around kind of Metroidvania style, kind of stacked platforming objectives, trying to defeat monsters, and that's where it turns into a little beat 'em up, and uncover little hidden secrets and hidden areas and power ups. You can level up Mr. Rock's abilities. You get other little pals that kind of hang out in your backpack, and you can deploy them in times of need. You level up your own fighting abilities and stuff like that. You have a sticker album. There are hidden stickers all around, and you fill your album full of stickers, and those give you little abilities as well. You occasionally find hidden cupcakes in all of the corners of the map, and there is a little village you can visit where you give the cupcakes to a cat, and he gives you special powers. Mm-hmm. Because cats love cupcakes, apparently.
I bet they do.
But yeah, it is, and you can get where I'm going with this. It's all very goofy, very eccentric, and very much written by somebody who is creative or high.
Yeah, right.
Or both. I suppose it could be both.
Sure.
But it works. Yeah. Sure. It's a good combination. But it all works. I've actually had a really, really good time with it. I like the kind of Metroidvania style level design. I'm always trying to search out little secrets and stuff like that. You will inevitably find the exit from the level before you've satisfied yourself with having found all of its secrets. So mental note, that's where the exit is, but I'm going to go back and explore pathways and rooms that I didn't get to before. Beat up some monsters. All the monsters are very kind of eccentric and weird, and but kind of humorous and funny. There's some really sharp and funny kind of writing in it. But yeah, it's been a pretty good time. I think I'm almost done with it. The map fills in as you finish it, and all of the little blips and nooks and signs in it are starting to fill in almost to 100%. So I think I'm in the home stretch. But man, I've just powered through it. I've had a really good time with it, and I have been kind of pleasantly surprised by one, it's sort of embracing kind of the weirdness that it's kind of trying to sort of embrace, and two, just sort of functioning as a good kind of platformer puzzle Metroidvania style kind of beat 'em up game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that usually your thing, like a kind of a brawler?
Generally not. No, no, not really. Not my thing. One of my friends on Twitter was trying to rope me into playing Streets of Rage 4 with them last week.
I know. I saw that. I was like, oh, this is going to be an uphill battle.
And I was, I'm always sort of like, cool, let's play video games. That's an Adventure Time reference too.
For that one. Except
for this time. So I'm like, I don't know what Streets of Rage is. Let me watch some trailers. Nope. Nope. Yeah. I liked, what was the beat 'em up game that came out a few years ago, inspired by it's a comic book and then a movie about a guy who's dating a girl.
Pilgrim.
There you go, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. There's a video game for that. And I like that video game, but I think my enjoyment of that game primarily comes from my enjoyment of that comic book and movie. Mm-hmm. And not because I'm like, oh, this is a very good version of a beat 'em up game.
You didn't find a new calling based on that
game?
Did
not. No, not in the way that I did last year with the card games. This is not going to start a new thing for me. But no, so I watched a couple trailers for Streets of Rage, and I was like, I'm gonna sit this one out. You guys do your thing. This doesn't seem like anything I would have fun with. I'd probably just be annoyed, or worse, just be a liability to the team. So I've heard Streets of Rage 4 is quite good. People seem to be very enamored with it, but probably not my thing. But the Adventure Pals, that is my thing. I've had a good time with it. Would recommend, particularly if it pops up in your eShop of choice at a nice discount price. Give it a shot. It's kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
What a fun discovery.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where I sort of like, it's been sitting here all along, and I could have been having this fun before.
Yeah.
Yep.
Instead, you're just playing Control.
Yes.
I don't know.
Trying to remember how to play Control. I had that problem with God of War as well, which I've never finished. The Dad of War, the new one.
Yeah,
I've never seen the end of that game. Stopped playing
for some. Isn't it?
It's a very long game, but also has like very complex like leveling abilities, and you have your axe, and you put different gems in the axe, and the gems give the axe different abilities and different move sets and stuff like that. And I'm like, I haven't played this game in a year and a half. How am I going to remember how to do all of this stuff? So I tried to replay it a couple months ago and didn't make it more than 10 feet before I got slaughtered, and trying to throw myself at this enemy and reacquaint myself with the controls. And I was like, nope, God of War, just not going to see the end of it.
I had a friend who tried to play Breath of the Wild recently. He hasn't really played a Zelda game in forever, but he just got a Switch because of all this, staying indoors business.
Yeah.
And I think he just put it down after a few hours because he was like, there's too many controls in this game. I was like, well, I kind of agree.
There's a lot
of stuff you can do.
Yeah.
It was so refreshing a couple weeks ago when I played Anodyne, because you can only really do one thing in that game, and I was like, oh, this is great. There's nothing to forget. There's only kind of one approach to all the puzzles, or a couple, because you can do several things with your one tool, but it was so refreshing. I was like, oh, they don't have to push multiple buttons at once. It's good.
Right. Yeah. God of War definitely suffers. I don't know if it suffers from that. It was fun when I was into it, but I just don't remember how to do any of that stuff now.
Mm-hmm. One of these days I will get back to Horizon Zero Dawn, but in the back of my head I'm just like, oh, there was so much happening in that game. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I'm sure I've forgotten that it would take a while to just relearn how to do stuff.
Yeah. And then there are games like Gears 5 where I take 2 weeks off, pick up the controller, and like, oh, I remember how all this works.
Yeah.
Yep. Push the button to crouch, push the other button to lean out and shoot at bad dudes, and then run some more. All of it just sort of comes back from that muscle memory. I just do not have that with Control, obviously, or God of War.
Yeah.
How about you, DJ? What have you been playing?
I have been playing a couple things. I played this game over the weekend called Deliver Us the Moon. This was recommended to me by listener Russ Greeno, as a matter of fact, because he was like, hey, you liked Tacoma. Remember Tacoma, the game on the space station from a couple years ago?
Oh, yeah. That was a great game.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, I did. So I will look into this thing. And it shares some similarities with us. I think that's, a good starting point. But what it is kind of a sci-fi, I think they're referring to it as a thriller, where this takes place in the future on Earth, where just Earth's natural resources have been depleted, and now the entire surface is just covered with dust storms, and people are kind of struggling to survive. You've seen
sure, that old chestnut,
whatever movie where this takes place. So in order to solve this, they've discovered a new source of energy on the moon and built this huge energy transmitter to deliver energy back to the Earth so they can, get everything back up and running again. When suddenly the transmission of energy from this thing stops, and you don't know why, because you've also lost contact with the moon base. So you play as this astronaut who is on kind of this long shot mission to get back up to the moon, figure out what's going on with the base, and hopefully reestablish the energy transmission so people don't keep dying on Earth. So that's a cool premise. It's kind of like a third person. It's kind of heavy, yeah. I don't know if maybe it's not the greatest thing to play at this point, depending on your mental state, but it did remind me. It has very strong kind of like Interstellar vibes, if you saw that movie, or Sunshine, where it's just it's like, hey, the world's ending, and if we don't complete this mission successfully, like, that's it. So yeah, it is a little bit heavy. Yeah, it does get into some of those like similar themes there, but I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah,
it is a third person adventure game. It is not really like an action game. I'd say it actually is more similar to something like Tacoma or Gone Home, where you spend a lot of time just exploring environments and picking up clues as to what happened leading up to this power blackout, and like collecting notes from off people's desks and reading emails, some of which are just the pinnacle of, people always complain about in video games, you're wandering through this environment and somebody has written the most cliched kind of message in somebody's blood on a wall during a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Stuff like, are humans the real monsters? Or whatever. You're just like nobody would write this. Why is this here?
It's like the people who, with their dying breath, leave you an audio recording.
Yes, yeah, or just write down their passcode. So there's a little of that. Like, some of it is a little bit heavy-handed.
Find my body, delete my search history.
It's a little corny at times, but for the most part, it's enjoyable, and there's a cool mystery in the center of it. I really enjoyed the kind of the progression along this mission. It reminded me very much of Soma, where you're in the middle of some weird base and you just have to make your way from one sector to the next. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of cool foreshadowing that happens, because all the log entries you find, people will talk about something that happened in this section of the base, and you're kind of thinking like, ooh, I wonder if I get to go there at some point. And eventually you do, and it's very exciting because it's kind of been building up the entire time.
Cool. So is it primarily kind of exploration and kind of interaction in that way? It's not, monsters or combat or anything like that.
No, well, there are no monsters on the moon, Randy. I don't know why you would have that idea.
I'm sorry, that's a different video game. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, well, maybe there. I don't know. I don't know how much I should give away.
Okay.
In case that is, I don't know. In case that adds an element of suspense, because I did not really know what to expect getting into this.
Gotcha. All right. I guess I'm trying to get a sense of where I can sort of categorize this in my brain.
I would put it somewhere between like Tacoma and Soma.
Gotcha.
Maybe closer to one end of that spectrum than the other, but I think either one is Socoma. Yes, missed opportunity.
It's like what was the word I kept saying? Metroidvania. It's a Socoma type game.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can get that to stick. Because actually, I would love to play more games like that. That would be great. Actually, I'm also just really happy because you do a lot of cool space stuff in this. It reminded me very much of System Shock, where you're on a spaceship and it really feels like you are having to go around and perform kind of like not things that a real astronaut would do, but things an astronaut on a TV show or in a video game would do. You know what I mean? Like you have to realign radar dishes or whatever, or like unplug giant batteries from one socket and drag it over to another socket so life support comes back online, that sort of stuff.
Sure. That sounds familiar, yeah.
Just lots of fun, kind of pulpy sci-fi stuff, which is cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think you might be into it. It seems tuned very generously where there are not a lot of opportunities to get a game over or anything. There are a lot of sequences where you are running low on oxygen because either you're like out in space or an airlock has opened. So you need to go take care of that before your oxygen runs out. But for the most part, I feel like they give you enough kind of oxygen to work with to solve the puzzle. So it feels very, very much tuned for people to be able to complete this without too much stress, which I also thought was very nice.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Particularly if you're dealing with such heavy subject matter. A bit of a reprieve around solving some of the puzzles is nice.
Yeah, you definitely get some time to just reflect on the current situation of Earth. I mean, the current situation of Earth in the game, which is very dire.
Everything else is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Murder hornets notwithstanding.
Murder hornets. No, we don't know what happened to the murder hornets in this game. Well, they're not really making headlines. Nobody mentions them, so I guess that all worked out.
Good.
There was one puzzle toward the start, which I thought was maybe going to set the tone for the game, but it did not really. But basically, you're at this launch facility, so you can take this rocket up to the space station and eventually get down to the moon. But they're like, hey, you're an astronaut. You need to go start the launch sequence for this rocket. You've done this a million times in training, so it should be no problem for you. But they show you this diagram of like the rocket control panel with, I think, 10 different steps labeled on it. And it just makes no sense. It's like one control will be over here, and the next one you have to push is on the opposite side, and it's like a lever, and the first one was a dial. So there's really no kind of continuity between any of the parts of the launch sequence. And just looking at this thing, it's like, okay, so I know the character in the game is an astronaut and has done this hundreds of times, but this is the first time I've ever seen this thing. So I'm going to take a picture of this with my phone in case this ever becomes important. And lo and behold, it was very good to have that photo like 10 minutes later when I was trying to launch the rocket. So
oh, good. I
recommend people do that if you don't have a photographic memory, because it will make it a little easier to get off the planet.
Cool. Yeah, I do not have a photographic memory, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought, the puzzles were just kind of challenging enough for me to like have to stop and think about some stuff. And eventually, I'd be like, oh, I just have to find another battery for this thing. That sounds good. And I never really ran into too much friction trying to get through this thing. So it was very cool. I ended up enjoying it quite a bit, I think.
Cool. So would recommend?
Yeah. If you like, it's not quite a walking simulator. You do have to do some stuff along the way.
I think that's what I was trying to sort of get at when I asked you if there were like monsters and stuff. And I'm like,
yeah,
is it like a walking around and kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like aliens or anything,
okay.
but there are some puzzles yet to deal with.
This was my dilemma with that game, Prey.
Prey. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was the Dishonored devs, and I really liked kind of hanging out on this big empty space station and like hacking my coworkers' computers and going through their files and finding their quarters and digging through all their stuff and like piecing together all the details of their lives. And the game incentivized us to this. There was a crew roster that you had to fill in as you sort of found kind of proof of life and then cause of death for everybody you were on the ship with.
Yeah.
And I digged that stuff. I thought it was really well done in the game. And then every now and then some big dumb monster would show up and I would fight and then die and have to start over. And like that part was no fun. I'm like, I just like snooping through other people's crap. Can I have that as the video game?
Yeah.
So maybe this is that game.
Maybe this is it. Yeah, there certainly are a lot of logs to discover. I think by the time I finished it, it's only a few hours long. It's like maybe 5 or 6 hours long.
Cool.
I did not have all of the logs. Oh, and actually, something interesting is that there are several sections where you will encounter like kind of a holographic recording of something that happened, which is, it's not done in this exactly the way it was done in Tacoma, where you see the whole animated scene, but you get kind of snapshots of stuff that happened. It very much reminded me of Tacoma, though. I thought it was kind of a nice nod to that game.
Cool. Yeah, Tacoma was the one where you were like looking at, you had like video controls essentially, right? And you could kind of scrub forward and backwards to look for
exactly.
kind of relevant info. Yeah.
And you would see kind of the scene like reenacted
Right.
in 3D rather than just listening to an audio log or something.
That was a cool game.
Yeah. So that was nice. It seemed very much inspired by that kind of mechanic.
Neat.
So this has been out on, I think it came out on Steam late last year, and it just recently showed up on consoles, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and I think it's actually coming to the Switch later this year.
Oh.
So it's going to be all over the place.
Cool. I see it on the internet as Deliver Us the Moon, Fortuna.
Yeah, that was the name of the mission. I don't know why that is kind of on there. Maybe that's like the console name. I played this on Steam, so it didn't have that added on.
Okay, but same game.
Same game, as far as I know.
Gotcha.
So that was pretty good. Thank you very much, Russ Greeno, for the recommendation.
Yeah. Put that on my list as well.
Yeah. If you can tolerate a little kind of melodrama in the the notes you pick up, then it can be your thing.
I probably can. Sure.
Yeah, I think it was fine. It was very much like, well, these are characters in a video game, so obviously this is how they talk.
So what is happening in the world of Final Fantasy VII, TJ?
So I finished Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, and you're playing the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I didn't actually even finish it.
Okay. So when you said I finished Final Fantasy VII, you were lying.
I was sort of lying. Let me backtrack a minute.
Sure.
So at this point, I have heard enough people whose opinions on Final Fantasy I respect saying good things about the remake to kind of convince me like, oh, maybe I should actually check this out. Because for the longest time, I thought, they're doing this remake. I don't especially feel the need to play a remake of Final Fantasy VII, especially if it's only going to be the first chapter of it, essentially. Like, they didn't even remake the entire game at this point.
Right.
So I'll just wait for that entire thing to be done, which no one really knows when that will be. But I wasn't really itching to play it. But that has changed. I'm now kind of intrigued, and I've actually heard that they've either added a lot of stuff, like added a lot more detail in like side stories and that sort of stuff, or just straight up made changes to the original story, which I have not really read about because I'm trying to avoid spoilers. But it sounds like I've read some pretty provocative stuff that has gotten me very curious about this game. So I thought, okay, fine.
And we wouldn't spoil it here on the show anyway. So
no, I'm not going to give anything away. Not about the remake anyway. And I will tread around heavy spoilers from the original because apparently that is just like, we're not allowed to spoil that game anymore. So that's interesting. But I was like, okay, I should play this. but I haven't played it. I haven't played the original probably since it came out, which was like almost 25 years ago. So I guess I should get a refresher on the original because, otherwise I'm not going to pick up on all the little details in the new one. But also I don't want to play like a 40-hour RPG just to play this new thing. And then I realized, maybe a little late, maybe some of you figure this out, that since this remake is only the first chapter of the game, I'll just replay the first chapter of the original, and that'll be great, because that'll be very fast, and I can get right to the remake. So I did that, and that's what I finished.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was great. It was very brief. It's almost kind of comical, because I think this new one, I've heard people say it's like 40 hours long.
The remake.
The remake, yeah. And I got through the equivalent section of the original in like 5 hours. So it's not like a lot of padding or something is going on in the remake. I guess I will discover shortly. But it was super fun going back to the original. Like I said, I haven't played it in forever. I kind of I remember the big story beats, but a lot of what happens in between has been kind of lost to the fact that I played this more than 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So super good. I just loaded up. So I got the Switch version, which is a slightly enhanced port of, I think, the PC version, which came out shortly after the PlayStation one. But for all intents and purposes, it is just the PlayStation version, and it's super good. What really struck me immediately is that it is so fast compared to playing a modern RPG like Dragon Quest, or I assume Persona, or just modern games in general. It may be because I've been playing Animal Crossing and just like freaking out about how slow everything in that game is.
Right.
Just whether you're talking to somebody, like the menu pops up and it's like, brrr, and like the character starts talking to you very slowly.
Yeah, it's certainly at its own pace.
Yes. I mean, that is kind of Animal Crossing's thing. So I feel a little like I shouldn't be criticizing them for this, because everybody just wants to live a leisurely life on this island and they have no obligations, so it doesn't matter that everything takes forever. But going back to this game, that was I don't know. I don't even remember if games were particularly fast at the time, but this one is just like, oh man, the menus pop up, people spit out their lines in just like a split second. Everybody is like just running around all over the place. Battles are super fast. It's amazing.
Right. Well, it's not turn-based either, right? So that's the distinction, too.
It's like mildly turn-based. It's like pretty much in the prime of the active time battle system from the old Final Fantasy games. So it's like, it's kind of turn-based, but it's definitely not like the remake where that is almost an action game. Also, there's just, like, you play the demo for the remake, right?
Right, I played with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not with you. I played it.
Not with, yeah.
Along with, yeah.
We played it separately.
In parallel with you.
Yeah. So the demo took like an hour, maybe 45 minutes or an hour to get through.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So
it was substantial.
Yeah, it was like a sizable demo. That section in this game is 10 minutes long. So that should give you an idea of just how things have scaled for the remake. And I feel like just games in general, if you're going to make a big AAA game these days, I don't know, people just expect there to be a lot happening, I guess. Also, this is all text-based. It's not voice acted or anything. So I think that speeds it up quite a bit. But it was so great to just, watch the intro, get introduced to the characters. They still do kind of the same stuff that shows up in the remake, obviously. But like there's that whole scene in the elevator with Barrett just doing a plot dump on you. And it's ridiculous because it's voice acted, and whoever's doing the voice acting is also kind of over the top. And he's just explaining how the world works that you think Cloud and all his buddies would already know. And it just came off as real weird and unnatural in the remake demo. But in this one, it's over in like 5 seconds because he just spits out some stuff and you're just like, oh, Barrett's kind of crazy. So you just get back to the game right away.
Right. Whereas the remake kind of marinades in that.
Yeah. It's like if people have been waiting 10, 15 years for this remake, it had better look like the fanciest, most expensive version of this game that people have ever seen. So I think that was kind of the impetus for a lot of it. But man, the original game, It's great. It's very fast. The battle system and all the gameplay is still very fun. I remember it kind of being, or after completing it, one of the complaints people had revolved around kind of the core gameplay system in this, which is called the materia system. I forget if this was in the remake, or at least in the section of the demo at all. But basically, to customize your characters in this, you get these little crystals that are called materia, and each one has like an attribute associated with it. So you could have a like a lightning materia, which lets them cast lightning spells if you equip it to that character. Or a certain materia will give them other abilities, like they can steal items from enemies or use enemy skills on them. But so you basically kind of build out your party. They didn't really have roles as typical RPG archetypes. That you didn't have like a tank or a healer necessarily, but you would kind of give them custom abilities based on whatever materia you had, which I think is still a pretty cool system. But the biggest complaint around it, I think, is at the end of the game when you just had tons and tons of materia and they're all leveled up and they're really powerful. You could just kind of exchange them between characters and make any character into whatever role you needed them to be, which made everybody feel a little interchangeable. Which is kind of how I remember the game, and when I think about the materia system, that's kind of what I think about. But at least in the opening hours or so, you are so limited in the amount of materia and like resources that you have that you're forced to make a lot more decisions, like who gets what and who can be a healer or who should be focusing on like physical attacks or magic attacks. It's like a lot more strategic than what I remember the end game of Final Fantasy VII being. So that was also very, very nice and kind of different than what I was expecting.
Cool.
It's also fun just to come back and play essentially a PlayStation 1 game after a long time, because I was a little worried how it was going to hold up, being that it is quite old and it came out when people were like game studios were still trying to figure out how to make a 3D game in some sense. So, you know, they're not the most advanced graphics or anything looking at them now. But what kind of blows my mind a little bit is that, like, when this came out, this was like the biggest and most advanced game in the world, maybe. But looking at it now, it's just kind of these dinky little 3D models running around. It still uses sound effects, which sound like they're left over from the 16-bit games. Like, there's this one scene, it happens, I think, right after the opening mission. So you just set off this huge bomb. And so there's like some fire around the environment. Everything is kind of wrecked and, you know, because a bomb just went off. And there's supposed to be the sound effect that, you know, it's like fire crackling, but it really just sounds like a 16-bit kind of static sound effect where, you know, it's like the suggestion that something is on fire. It sounds very primitive. It's kind of amazing though, because, you know, I'm sure in the demo they got somebody to like find whatever Foley worked the best for like the most realistic sounding fire that they could afford for that scene and add that in there.
Right.
But I feel like it's still like it's aged pretty well. Like the character graphics or the character models anyway, maybe not so much, but considering like the whole look of the game, it's kind of the Resident Evil style, like pre-rendered 3D backgrounds and fixed camera angles where these big chunky polygon characters run around on top of them. Like for that kind of game, it still looks pretty good. And if you're willing to put up with a little cartooniness in the character models, I think it's pretty palatable. I actually think the goofy looking character models add a lot of personality to it, which is just not in, or I didn't really get this from the remake. I think it would be harder to recreate a lot of the humor that is in this version of it in the remake. There are a couple scenes I'm looking forward to figuring out how they handle, but I can't imagine them playing out quite the same as they would have on the PlayStation 1.
So it's got charm, what it sort of lacks in graphical fidelity.
Yeah, it does have a lot of charm. Like, characters can't really emote in full photorealism as they do in the remake, so they will, like, the character will just swivel towards the camera without moving their legs and will, like, shake their fists, which are these huge cinder blocks of like 4 polygons. So it'll just be like, and it looks like, it looks like a cartoon. It doesn't look like Cloud Strife is a real person. But I kind of prefer that, honestly. I don't know if I ever need it to just be photorealistic the entire thing.
Exactly. That's funny. Well, cool. That sounds like it's maybe a smarter way to use your time.
Than playing the remake?
Than playing, devoting 40 hours of your life to the remake.
Oh, well, I still plan to do that. But I just wanted to preface it with this little kind of trip back to the original to see how, as a refresher, essentially.
Right.
And it was cool. I mean, it was also over so quickly, which is good because I like to play the remake, but it leaves off at such a kind of memorable point. I kind of just wanted to keep going a little bit and get a little bit further into the game, but I'm going to, put it down for now so I can get onto the newer stuff, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So you're committed to waiting for this remake thing to be complete before you devote your time to it?
Oh, no. I'm going to play the new one soon, probably.
Oh, no. Okay. All right.
I'm just going to deal with it. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No, I wasn't following your logic on that. I knew that your original commitment was to wait for the entire, part 1, 2, 3, whatever to come out. But
yeah,
no, you're diving in now.
Soon.
Now-ish. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say things that, like, even though they know there's a lot more of the story that hasn't happened yet in the remake, that the first episode works fairly well as just a standalone thing, which is sort of,
good.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it better. But like the first episode takes place all within this one city in Midgar, which is, the place you're blowing up in the demo. And by the end of it, you like leave and you go out to the overworld and it's like, wow, there's this whole, RPG style overworld map and towns to check out. And there's so much more going on in this game besides just that first city. It's kind of, it's a crazy moment in the game. So,
that the remake doesn't approach.
Well, I don't know how they handle it. I've avoided looking up details from the very end of the remake, the first episode.
Yeah. I'm probably asking you questions you can't or answer and probably should not answer. So
yeah, a lot of this is like hypothesis. But from my understanding, the first episode of the remake is the complete Midgar section. And I assume, I don't know this for sure, that where the first episode ends is where they're getting ready to leave the city and go out onto the overworld in the original game. So in that sense, I feel like it's a kind of logical way to break up the episodes where it's like, okay, you have this one episode, it's the whole kind of first segment in the city, and then the next episode, whenever that happens, will be, we'll pick up where that left off.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it'll be real interesting to see how they split it up from here on out, because I don't know, there doesn't seem like there are quite as many logical breakpoints. And just based on, if this first episode was only 10% of the original game or however long, there's going to be a lot of episodes of this coming out.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I should mention, so the last thing is that I mentioned this was kind of an enhanced remake. They have not really touched up the graphics or anything. I mean, they've kind of upscaled everything so it looks nice, or it looks nicer anyway on a modern display. But in terms of like quality of life stuff, they have not really added a lot, except there are a couple things you can click in either the left stick on the controller, which will speed everything up to like 300% speed, which is super nice if you're navigating a long map or you're just tired of watching all the battle animations. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is crazy. If you click the right stick, it will refill all your characters' health and magic and give them all their like limit break attack, which is like a super powerful attack, which you're not supposed to have like on demand. So, if you're really interested in just breezing through all the battles, or if you're just, there's one that you're stuck at and you just can't deal with it anymore, just click the right stick a couple times and that will solve all your problems.
Oh, and it doesn't use your resources. It's not like going into your inventory and using your potions to heal everybody. It's just a cheat, essentially.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like the I'm done with this battle button. You just click it and, unleash all your super attacks. And if that didn't do the job, just click it again and see how many times it takes.
Wow.
So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of like the super easy mode if you're just tired of dealing with the game and you want to get through the story, which I imagine a lot of people probably did as the remake was getting closer to release.
Cool. Well, that's kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah. Anyway, it's fun going back to it. It was a good reminder. There was a lot of stuff that I've forgotten about this game, actually. But it was cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've done with the remake.
Compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we should wrap this thing up so you can get to that, maybe.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if I want to get into it right away. That's the only problem with playing something this sizable is like, do I really want more of this immediately?
It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's
soon,
why I've not
soon.
started Horizon Zero Dawn, because I have that waiting for me, and I've not played it. But how long to beat, man, tells me it's 40-something hours. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Well, that's not even like, man, in the era of just 100-hour Persona and Dragon Quest games, when I hear a game is 40 hours, I'm like, oh, not too bad.
It's just a work week. Yeah. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover or head to our blog at VGHangover.com. Also, hop into our Discord.
Yeah. What happens if they do that?
We can hang out with us and the other people on our Discord and talk about things. We have we have our little circle of Animal Crossing obsessives. We have our own little chat room where we talk about turnips and fishing all day and other things that people think Animal Crossing fans talk about.
I didn't buy turnips this week. I'm free.
I am in for like a lot of money on turnips.
No.
I took last week off, but I missed out, so I gotta make up a little bit. I did a little. I did a lot of kind of public works kind of stuff. I did some relocation, some tweaking of the map, so emptied out the coffers a little bit. I gotta get my millions back up.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I'm at the point. I'm at a crossroads where either I like stop playing this game or I just go all in and only play this because like. I just unlocked the terraforming stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, but I'm realizing how long it's going to actually take to accomplish all of that. So I gotta make some choices.
It's not meant to be a quick affair. You spend some time with it.
True.
Yeah. What else? The other side of the Discord, what else we've been sharing? We had a long conversation last night with one of our Discord folks about the Uncharted series. We've been sharing pictures of our quarantine dinners. Those are always delicious. But yeah, lots of other stuff. One of our members has been making his own PC, has been sharing pics of that experience. Yeah. So there's a lot of fun and interesting stuff happening in the video game hangover community.
Yeah. It is fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get you to hype it up a little bit.
Hop into our Discord to partake in all of those things.
Yeah. Just head over to VGHangover.com. Discord invite will be up at the top. I hope to see you in there.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, we will be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night. God, what happened to that guy? It's so long since I even realized that guy existed.
I prefer not to think about it.